requested the Minister with responsibility for education, the Honorable Kevin Cassidy.
Manchester United, a good weekend. Man City did not. Arsenal drew 1-1. Good morning. Happy New Year to everybody. Before I take your questions, just an update on some of the things happening in my constituency. We continue to develop our infrastructure. As you know, Groseley is a constituency that continues to have issues where it pertains to road, retaining walls, structures, riverways. So this will always be something that we are working on. We continue to work on the Ashkosh Road in Rivermeter. We are continuing works on the Monjuro Road, Monjuro to Rageby Road. You will see some pictures on social media very soon about these roads. We continue to work on our facilities. We are very, very near completion in terms of the Grand Area Court. In fact, the court is nearly complete. We are waiting on the installation of basketball rims and the acquisition of some netball rims. So very soon you will be seeing that. We will be reopening the Bontech Court on the 21st of February. Brand new Bontech Court will be open, and we're commencing work on the Labon Court on the 1st of February as well. Generally, the mood in Groseley is very, very good. We are nearing the completion of the Groseley Northern Divisional Headquarters, affectionately called Groseley Police Station. The extension of the Groseley Polyclinic is nearing completion as well. In terms of the Ministry of Education, we continue to visit schools and the different facilities within my ambit. We've been having many, many meetings. As a matter of fact, I don't recall a period in my life where I've attended so many meetings. But just to get a feel for what's been happening in education, one of my main ambitions is to ensure that we have a solid, robust TVET education program in St. Lucia. The ministry have been working a long time in doing this. I must say that I'm impressed with some of the technocrats at the Ministry of Education. Of course, we want to ensure that we continue to develop that aspect of our young people. My concern, of course, is to ensure that other stakeholders are on board. Parents, one of the biggest stakeholders as it pertains to education. We will be implementing some training, some form of activities and programs between parents, teachers, and students. We will need more of that as we go forward. And of course, the biggest stakeholder, the students, we will be implementing as many programs for them. Teachers will be getting my attention, considering I was a teacher at many institutions on this island, and we're certainly hoping that the morale is given that boost as they continue to do one of the more important jobs we have on island. In terms of the Ministry of Youth Development and Sport, we have seen some real progress as it pertains to our female sprinters. St. Lucia currently have 7 female sprinters running sub-12. This has never happened before. As a matter of fact, if you look at the rest of the composition of the OECS, we are way ahead. We are very, very close to having a formidable global 4x1 women's relay team. And of course, JD Emmanuel now committing to the University of Texas. You will be on the same training ground with the likes of Naomi London and superstar Julian Alfred. Not too far in Florida, Asia Lorenzen is also over there, so we expected to work with the St. Lucia Olympic Committee, the St. Lucia Athletes Association, to ensure that we provide them as much support as possible as they train together on some occasions for some of the global activities. We recently had our post-mortem on the St. Lucia Semi-Professional Football League. We did have some of our consideration for what happened, what occurred, and how we can improve it. We're certainly hoping that this year, come June, we have our 3rd edition, and we have a 3rd fresh edition that will continue to provide those financial initiatives and impetus for our young men. Semi-professional cricket is expected to start very soon. We'll be having the draft very, very soon for our semi-professional cricket league, and that's happening in the month of April, but already we're seeing so much already starting in that regard. In terms of strength training, See, you're not realizing the amount of work we're doing. Strength training, the Mindo Phillip Park, we've installed a brand new state-of-the-art gym. We're supposed to be planning that opening very soon. I'll be speaking with my permanent secretary for the athletes, the footballers, the cricketers who use that facility. It is pretty much a modern facility that we have installed at the Mindo Phillip Park. Questions?
Morning, Mr. Minister of Education, Youth Development and Sports. The Prime Minister made the pronouncement that the Northern Headquarters facility was going to be open in time for Independence. Are we still on track?
Well, you should have asked the Prime Minister. From a cursory look at the facility, we look to be progressing very well. He would be the one who would have the technical reports from the individuals who are the contractors. But from my vantage point, things seem to be very good. I toured the facility in December. I was very impressed with the facility, especially with the gun range that I will be using from time to time to ensure that I continue to be sharp. But as you would know, one of the only facilities for police in the world to actually have a gun range right there for police to continue to practice and to be as accurate as they can be. I think that's very important when you are going to be fighting crime. I'm very impressed with the facility in terms of the holding cells, in terms of the administrative section, and in terms of the rooms that the police officers, male and female, will be given to rest and recuperate as they continue to deal with the largest constituency in the OACS.
The semi-professional post-mortem would have concluded last week. What are the identified areas for improvement?
I'd like to speak first and foremost in terms of the improvements. A lot of St. Lucians don't know this, but when we started the semi-professional football league, in our first year, almost 93% of the footballers did not have a bank account. I'll say this again. When we started semi-professional football in St. Lucia, almost 93% of young footballers in this country did not have a bank account. So we are starting to pay footballers and realize that they don't even have an ATM card. So as the minister, in collaboration with the Football Association, we ventured to correct this. In correcting this, we realized that a further 91% of these individuals did not hold a national ID card. So this tells you what we as a government inherited as it pertains to the mentality of footballers, as it pertains to the seriousness of the actual personal development of footballers, and some of the things that implementing such a program has actually curbed. So we at the opposite of that spectrum now. 99% of those footballers hold an ID card, and nearly 100% of them, as you would appreciate, have a bank account. So that tells you that they understand that the payments will be made through those modern ways. And so we're very proud of that as an achievement off the field. On the field, a lot to be desired as it pertains to refereeing. I have spoken ad nauseum about the challenges faced by refereeing in St. Lucia. We have a culture where an official would make a mistake, and you know what the crowd will be shouting. You know some of the things that will be said about him on and off the field. And so unless we can really deal with that particular culture, we won't have many young people coming to the fore and putting their hands up to say they want to be referees. So we have a situation where we've pretty much used what's available. So in the post-mortem, I made a recommendation, and I did speak to PS, that the third version, we would definitely have to look at the importation of referees for these matches, especially when you get to the business end of the competition. So that is one of the areas we're going to work on. In terms of the amount of input we've had from the corporate sector, very disappointing, dismal. The first year we were able to raise about $25,000 in sponsorship. The number did go up to $75,000, almost tripled. But if you want to be serious about young men and you want to be serious about investing in the future, we need that number to go between $250,000 to $500,000 of investment from the corporate sector. So we've spoken about different strategies that we may implement to ensure that we bring that level of sponsorship to the event. and we're certainly hoping that that will bear fruit in the third edition.
No doubt you would have been thoroughly disappointed, especially in light of sponsorship that goes elsewhere.
Absolutely.
So, not to shed any shadow on any other industry, but when the likes of jazz and carnival comes around, the sponsorship checks are huge. What do you think that says about our responsiveness to sports, or just football? And what do you think it says about our corporate environment in support of our young people?
To be very honest, it goes both ways. I think as a corporate individual, you would want on some level to donate, but you'd also want some form of equivalent or even fractional amount of recognition and buy into your business from that sponsorship. And so the Semi-Pro League really need to come to the table in terms of how we can make the competition more attractive so that those sponsors can get the buy-in and the visibility that they so desire. But it says that we are not as serious as we want to make people believe we are about youth development and, of course, dealing with the scourge of crime and other illicit activities. Because when you have a competition that we saw that the venue was too small for the finals, so many people and the viewership, we looked at the viewership in year one compared to year two, doubled. I mean, we had ESPN Plus and some of the global entities looking at our football. It says that, one, either corporate St. Lucia has not recognized that, or two, they're just simply not interested. So it means that we need to do more, both the semi-pro team and the corporate St. Lucia. And I can announce so far that we have close to 150,000 commitments so far for the third edition, which is a fraction of where we actually need to be.
Good morning, Minister. Good morning, how are you? So in regards to Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, with the implementation of new sporting activities as well in St. Lucia, I know last year, beginning of December, we had a team who competed for the first time in the ISA's World Juniors Surfing Championship. And I just wanted to know, going forward, with the implementation of now surfing within our roster of sports coming up, the ministry's take within adding surfing to now the agenda, as well as usual with football and cricket, as well as swimming as well.
I can say to the press and to St. Lucia, I think it's known now that almost every minister of sport in the region wants our concept of alternative sports, because of course we took the lead on alternative sports in the region as a country, a small island, and now we've seen alternative sports pretty much being desired by all these other countries. You say surfing has done very well. They continue to take their space. Their program, Robust, had discussions with them at the launch last year. And so we are islands surrounded by water. So any sporting event that our young people can get involved in that would take them off the streets into the water in a safe way, and they can then become world class, regional class, we would always encourage that. Biggest alternative sport we've seen in terms of development and participation is chess. Chess continues to be implemented and spread through most schools on the island, comprehensive program. And so we really want to continue that. Today, we're having a discussion on motorsports at the cabinet level as well, because we definitely want to work on identifying that sport for them and ensuring that they can use that opportunity to develop programs that are not necessarily racing related, but programs such as safe driving, programs such as, how are you going to encourage the next generation of drivers in St. Lucia to be a little more conscious of other drivers on the road. And we're certainly hoping that the Moto X and the car racing fraternity takes their position in developing the sport for their members and, of course, for society as well.
Good morning, Mr. Casimir.
Sorry.
Amanda King from DBS. How do you plan on ensuring a deeper engagement with the Ministry of Education and the Catholic Church in educational reform?
All right, the same way I would want the deeper engagement with the Pentecostal church, with the Adventist church,
Okay, let's
with
go
the
church
Methodist
in
church,
general.
with all churches. I was just surprised that the Catholic Church. I believe the church needs to take its place in society more than they have in recent times. I think we've come to a place where we've had so many different religions that sometimes it's more about what the philosophy of the religion is and not necessarily what society actually needs in terms of developing our young people. I will say this, no matter what religion, I believe that we have space for objective intervention of churches. Once you speak to a principal, a chief education officer, and there's a program that you want to implement, say on conflict resolution, say on some of the basic things that young men, young women would have to go through in their life and maturation, me as minister, I would definitely support it once it's done in an objective way that doesn't affect the children, it respects the rights of others. It is something that I would love to see happen. Of course, I am one of the proponents of alumni associations in all schools, not just for sports development, but for developments such as these. You have a Catholic church in terms of St. Joseph's Convent, St. Mary's College. Where are the individuals who went through the doors of these schools that are now executive at businesses, who are now educators? Why not come together and see how you can provide whatever expertise you have, raise some funds amongst yourself, and then come back into the educational institution to provide a service that can benefit the entire country. So I look forward to people seeing this and realizing that we all have a role to play in developing the next generation.
Awesome. You mentioned conflict resolution earlier. We saw the year opened with the killing of a 16-year-old boy. What is your advice to the young people here in St. Lucia on resolving their conflict?
I think we need to have a robust approach to dealing with conflict that does not only involve one sector. Crime is not something that you can deal with only at the school level, or only by the religious fraternity, or only by parenting. It is an approach that is required for every individual. I visited the school very early. I heard some of the conversation as to what evolved, and you realize a lot of the times that we may take for granted that individuals need more attention at certain times than others. So it requires a lot of reskilling of individuals. I believe I need to be skilled and reskilled. So even in terms of our teachers, our guardians, our principals, being able to identify the potential for conflict is going to be very important, so we can be proactive rather than reactive. And so for me, as a Minister of Education, I've suggested to my PS, DPS and team that a project that I've been speaking about called Project One be implemented in school, where we remove the mentality of our young people as early as infant and primary school of thinking of eventually getting into a 6 or 7 group, but very early on seeing yourself as one, seeing yourself as an individual who has something to contribute to society, seeing yourself as somebody who needs to find out what it is within you that makes you unique and how you can contribute to a classroom, to a school, to a national team, or in any way, shape, or form. So when the elements come and suggest that you should be either 6 or 7, you say, no, I am one. And when the elements come and say to you, you need to join a gang, or you need to be a part of a certain amount of people, you say, no, I don't mind working with every one of you individually, but I am one. And you need to find out for yourself who you are, who is the one in you that can make St. Lucia a better place.
Awesome.
Sure. See you again tomorrow.
Good afternoon. As the new Minister of Education, I know you might have inherited a lot of plans, but one of them would have been inculcating St. Lucian and West African history, and Creole, and largely these cultural aspects into the education sector. Now, as Minister of Education, how do you see yourself fulfilling many of these plans?
Well, it is, how do I put this? It is of huge priority to me that we look at our heritage, we look at who we are as a nation, and we develop either whether it's based on a curriculum or whether it's based on a book, a textbook, something that our next generation can refer to in terms of knowing who we are. I'll give you an example. I mean, a simple place like Marshall, speaking to a 20-year-old in the school system, and you ask who is Romanus Lancico, who would look at you absolutely blank. It really tells me that even in terms of our teachers and our young people, that we definitely need a syllabus, we definitely need some form of an education thrust towards our history, St. Lucian history, our heritage. I prefer heritage because I believe heritage is very inclusive. We have some conversation about African studies, but I prefer the term heritage simply because we have a number of contributing individuals from Amerindian heritage, from Indian heritage, but they are intrinsically St. Lucian. So a robust review of that. The ministry is very advanced in the preparation of that. And so I'm certainly hoping that within a year or two, as minister, we're presenting something, somewhat of a pilot to the public to ensure that we have our heritage thoroughly being studied by our individuals in prime and infant school, and of course the history of who we are as a people being taught to them as well.
Okay, so just to piggyback off this, have you gotten, let's say, a report or an assessment of the new hair grooming policy in schools? Do you think it's successful? Is there need to upgrade or fine tune the policy?
Well, the policy was passed last year. I have not had any sort of review at the schools yet. This is week 2 in terms of actually being on the ground in schools. But I will definitely look into it. I think what the Ministry of Education put together was solid enough. There was no perfect form of legislation or policy. But generally, I think it's something that we can work with, and guidelines are pretty clear for everybody to see.
Yes, afternoon, Honorable Kazume. Recently, CXC announced it's sending exams digitally. We just wanted to know if the ministry, how is it going to be done locally within the ministry, as well as schools with principals, parents, students involved as well.
All right, so the ministry also has a digital transformation aspect to it. And with digital transformation, it is really a thrust to ensure that our young people are computer literate, they are digitized early, they are able to function in a more modern way as early as possible. So moving in the direction of having digital exams and that sort of thing is something that we see as very feasible, and it's headed in the right direction, considering this is the government that have spent millions in creating smart classrooms, millions in terms of GINet, millions in terms of wireless capabilities in most communities. And so I think we are going in the right direction. We've also been the government that has ensured that there's a 1 laptop per child for everybody entering into a secondary school. And so I believe that once that bridge is there, with the capabilities we have in this nation, we'll be more than ready to act and to be successful.
All right, that's it. All right, I think there were a couple of questions that wanted to ask. Yeah. So maybe we could take questions, and I can always add on any other matters.
Okay, we're speaking on the Uber issue. Following the idea to launch Uber into St. Lucia, the initiative have been one met with strong criticism. Can you provide some clarity as to how exactly?
Well, I don't know if you want me to speak generally about Uber. I did receive a letter from Uber indicating that they had an interest in operating in St. Lucia, and that they had invited interested taxi drivers to sign up with them, and they wanted to have a meeting to discuss it, and I agreed that we shall have a meeting in the new year to discuss it. And no meeting has been held, and at the appropriate time I will hear from them exactly what it is they want to say to me. I have also received a letter from the National Taxi Union,
Right.
a very interesting letter about it. And the thing about it is that everybody let's just take it easy and let us talk. Let's find out exactly what this is about, and that at the appropriate time we will decide the way forward. Government has not considered it; it has not been placed on the agenda of government, and at the appropriate time we will discuss it. I'd love to hear, first of all, the National Taxi Union. What are the objections? They wrote a few to me in their letter, and I would also want to hear from Uber what they're saying. As far as I'm concerned, the laws of such is very clear. For you to be involved in transportation of that nature, you have to have a TX. So you have to have a TX, or else you're not authorized to transport people for hire. And that's very clear. If Uber is a technology platform, I don't know that the law prevents anybody from joining any service that can market and promote and facilitate their business. I don't know. But I'd love to hear what they say, and then we'll take it from there.
But even while you were speaking of a potential possible meeting and correspondence coming with regards concerns, would it surprise you to know that there are Uber signs on vehicles being used right now?
In St. Lucia?
No, yes.
TX taxis?
No.
Then that's illegal. Because the law is very clear. For you that you must have a TX plate. We tell that to our St. Lucians. You cannot operate if you don't have a TX. You cannot. So you cannot do it. That's just what it is. And if I have any evidence of that being done, we will act accordingly, and the police will have to act accordingly. But you have to have a TX. That's it, plain and simple. If you have a TX and you want to ride Uber, that's your business. But you have to have a TX. That's it. So the first thing the National Taxi Union and Taxi Association should do is to tell their members, don't sign up with Uber. That's the first step to make sure it doesn't happen. But you must have a TX. And we are very clear what the law says and what our policy is. And we're going to be adhering to this. But I'm going to wait to hear what the parties say. We're going to discuss it, and we're going to act in the national interest as we usually do.
Minister, how satisfied are you with your cruise ship arrival so far for this year?
Well, the numbers I'm seeing have been phenomenal. Now, remember, we judge a year from January to December for statistical purposes. The tourism season is October. By April, May, the cruise ships kind of wither away because it's now summer in the Northern Hemisphere, and they move to the Mediterranean, they move to the North Atlantic. But so far, our numbers are trending. We expect it to be our best year on record. It's been really, really, really good so far.
Okay, Carnival 2026, we have seen bands launching.
Yeah.
We've seen the bands launching. Are you expecting a bumper season this year?
I haven't gotten the briefing yet for Carnival. We're actually preparing for the announcement of the jazz lineup this Thursday. As you know, jazz is first 2 weeks of May. And on Thursday, there'll be the media launch. And I trust that all of you have been invited. And you will be there.
No.
Well, he probably says your media houses did not favor that you all should be there. But it's a media launch, and everyone is expected to be there on Thursday to hear the announcement of the lineup. So I'm not going to say much about the lineup, but I am personally looking forward to jazz this year. I think the community jazz events will be really good this year, for sure. And the lineup is a really exciting lineup. Really, really exciting.
Will you see jazz in your community?
Well, jazz in my community, yeah. I'm actually thinking of something for my community. But I'm looking forward to the jazz. And of course, we didn't get ready for Carnival. Carnival last year was, really exciting, our largest numbers. And I think this year too will be equally maybe even better than it was last year.
With our hotel rooms, right? We do not have enough to see the carnival with the arrivals that you said that you will be expecting.
Yeah.
How do we go around this?
But you see, we're in a very interesting position now. A couple of years ago here, I was explaining to you, because of the number of hotels that we had that closed down in St. Lucia, we actually have less rooms than we had a few years ago. So even now, the free hotels on the Ridgeway Beach are all closed. So we've lost 500 rooms. So we actually operating with less hotel room stock than before. But in the next 2 to 3 years, that will change dramatically. So when the hotels on the Ridgeway Beach are rebuilt, and they're expecting to start middle of this year, you're talking about 1,400 rooms when the entire free hotels are built. Mont Pimad is another 1,100 rooms. That's already 2,500 rooms. And then when you add in the south, when Galaxy, the Dreams Hotel, open towards the end of the year, first quarter next year, you're talking about another 300 rooms. So we will have a significant increase in the number of rooms in St. Lucia. And then now we have to face the issue of how do we fill those rooms. And very soon we'll announce the construction of an apartment hotel. And I will be giving you more details on it, which is another 400 rooms. But it's an apartment hotel, so it's just apartments, basically. We now have to start thinking from now how St. Lucia will be able to bring in enough people to fill those rooms. So right now we have a problem where we don't have enough rooms. But in 3 years, we'll have quite a lot of rooms. And we need to have the seats. And we need to have the marketing program. And it makes a point, and I want to alert you to it from now. We have to do something significant in terms of marketing St. Lucia and positioning St. Lucia that can meet, satisfy all those needs. So we're looking at different options and different things we can do.
Our non-traditional markets.
Sorry?
Our non-traditional
Well, non-traditional markets is one, but those things take a few years to build up. You don't just get a flight, say, from India, or you don't get a flight from Dubai just so. You have to build a demand over a period of time for you to be able to justify having a twice weekly flight or something. But we have to do something for sure to really take St. Lucia to the next level. We cannot continue with the same marketing programs that we've done. We need something dramatically different. Because if you almost double in your room stock, you have to do something dramatically different. It means a serious increase in marketing, monies as funds as well, for you to be able to market and position the country. But these are exciting days ahead. Really exciting days ahead.
Good afternoon, Minister. Happy New Year. And it's just 2 questions for me. The first one, I know last week that you were invited for an investment forum within Egypt. And if you want to give a little elaboration on what was discussed, if possible.
The investment forum in Cairo was a really successful one. There are a number of persons who become St. Lucian citizens through CIP, and they looking to invest. We've been calling on those citizens to invest in the country. So there was a gathering put together of persons from Egypt, Sudan, those areas, to receive a presentation on what are the possibilities in St. Lucia. So they actually arranged and invited me as minister to come. And that will be followed up with a visit to St. Lucia. In May this year, we'll be hosting an investment summit in St. Lucia. And they too will also undertake an investment trip to St. Lucia. But there is a demand for St. Lucia in that part of the world. And we will have to prepare to have a roadshow of sorts so we can actually go out there and present St. Lucia, because St. Lucia is trending. And we need to build on that. And linked to the point I just made, if we are going to look to the future, we need to create a greater demand for St. Lucia. We did very well in Dubai at Expo. We did very well in Osaka for Expo. Next year, we go to Belgrade for the Culture and Sports Expo, where the feature is only culture, creatives and sports. So that'll be big for us as well. In fact, Export St. Lucia is going to Belgrade in March to finalize the plans for Expo Belgrade. So yeah, it's successful, but you'll see a lot more of that. Invest St. Lucia going out, Export St. Lucia going out, Tourism Authority going out, really driving St. Lucia's presence globally.
Thank you. And my next question is, though that we had a big turnout with the with cruise ships as well for this year so far, after the situation the United States had with Venezuela, there have been fears on a decrease within tourism within the country as well as the region. So I just want to know, in your implementation, would there be any concerns moving forward this year with that?
Well, there are always concerns for us. You never know what's going to happen. You wake up in the morning, you put on CNN or BBC, and you hear some strange pronouncements that were made. So there are always concerns, there are always uncertainty. It's very difficult managing in times of such uncertainty. But you have to stay the course, and there's certain things you have to do. What happened in Venezuela did not have any big impact on us. We lost one day, virtually, when the airspace was closed, at least closed for American aircrafts. And, we always have to be mindful that those things can happen. That, we want the Caribbean to remain a zone of peace. It has been the bedrock of our success. And internationally, people feel comfortable coming to the Caribbean because we've been an area of peace. And we want it to remain an area of peace. But there are some things that are just, bigger than you. And you need to maneuver, with some flexibility and be agile and be prepared to adjust accordingly and to accept the realities of what is. It also means that, you must make hay while the sun shine. You have to push and make use of the opportunities before you, now, because you're not sure what's going to happen. But yes, we're going to continue to promote the Caribbean as the most desirable place in the world, so to come on vacation.
Yeah, going back to tourism, with regards to numbers, with the advent of your call centers, St. Lucia seems to have moved in the direction of more call centers and less boots on the ground, as it were in the US and Canada and the UK. Is there a thinking that, especially with your pronouncement with the new rooms coming on, that there needs to be a larger number of boots on the ground in those areas that we have as our usual markets, and those areas that we're looking to target as non-traditional as well?
Well, I mean, we still have boots on the ground. We don't have resident persons like we used to have before the last, if you remember, the previous dispensation, those offices were closed. But our sales team are frequently on the road. They spend a lot of time on the road as boots on the ground. Where you've had the greatest change is the move from advertising in the traditional, modes. So there's less advertising in newspapers. So you'd have seen a weekend insert in the Times of London or the New York Times or whatnot. You don't really see that. The billboard advertising you'd have before, you don't really see that. There's more digital advertising in terms of social media platforms and the use of influencers and, other such activations. Our work with the New York Yankees and the Toronto Raptors were really, really impactful. We had never really done that before. And you'll see more of that in the future. We have in strategic alliances and the use of big name influencers to drive the destination. We just did, I think, a recording of the Bachelorette in St. Lucia, and those kinds of activities. So yes, you've shifted from the traditional, advertising forms to more digital and other activations. But the boots on the ground, you can't really do away with it. You just need to have it. And in the coming period, you're right, we need to have even more boots on the ground to really make sure we keep St. Lucia in the face of people and selling St. Lucia in a very personable way. Trust me, no AI, no social media can replace that. I mean, It has its place, the AI and all the social media, but that, face-to-face personal warmth. AI cannot share the warmth, of somebody in front of you speaking about St. Lucia and genuinely feeling the vibe when they speak to you about St. Lucia.
But the question and the proposition, the proposal was derived from the fact that as a country, I'm sure now we don't have any, but we used to have, I think, somewhere about 5-7 individuals on the ground. When you juxtapose that against a Sanders with 65 in the US, a Canadian group with probably 20-something, and likewise in the UK, it suggests that there's benefit to having those boots on the ground as opposed to having 7 or none.
Yeah, but we can send up a team of 4 or 5 to the US 5 times a year, 6 times a year to do 2-week road shows. You pick out the right time because I think that they've done the maths and they've seen what they think. But you must have boots on the ground. It's whether you have them resident in New York, resident in Miami, resident in Chicago, resident in Atlanta, or you find other means. Sandals is a totally different enterprise. Sandals marketing budget is, many times ours, and stuff like that. But you are right. You cannot take away boots on the ground. You cannot. You can't run away from it. And we're going to go back to some form of that, boots on the ground. In the UK, we do have a full-time staff there. We don't have in New York, but we're going to go back to Canada for sure, having a representative in Canada. So we are going to the Canadian market. We want to restore it as much as possible.
Okay, Minister, given St. Lucia's historical reliance on tourism and external capital flows, and against the backdrop of current geopolitical tensions affecting the wider hemisphere, do you believe the country's tourism growth and investment prospects face any tangible risk?
Well, it's a variation of what I was asked earlier. And in a sense, there's uncertainty. There's tremendous uncertainty. You don't know. Can anybody in here predict what the president of the US will do next? You just can't. So yes, there's ever-present risk, but none of us can truly define what the risk is. We can, to some extent, anticipate what may happen, but you don't even really know. Okay, look at the latest one, and we must almost take it from a very selfish point of view. So it's an announcement that as 1st of February, there'll be 10% tariff on European countries that do not support the attempt of the president to acquire Greenland. And if by June they do not present him with a plan so he can acquire Greenland, he'll increase it to 25%. On one hand, if the response of the Europeans is to reciprocate, then there's an escalation of a tariff war. A tariff war will affect severely the economies of Europe. It will affect us. It will affect British travelers. If they don't do it, it means they will suffer in terms of their goods being more expensive, blah, blah, blah. But what would be the economic dislocation that will affect persons coming to the region? Americans continue to travel and continue to travel in large numbers. So despite what's happening in the US, it's not affecting numbers. But we see the decline in the UK market. We see the uncertainty in the Canadian market. We see it. But yes, there is all that risk that if we have a full-scale tariff war in the world right now, the global economy will suffer badly. It will suffer badly. And if it suffers badly, it will affect us. It will affect us. There's no two ways about it. Now, America is convinced that they will win any tariff war in the world. They're convinced of that. And therefore it might not affect the American consumer as much, but the other countries will be affected.
Are the Americans traveling or are they fleeing?
No, they are. Well, I think the Americans are just living their lives. They are traveling. I don't know that they necessarily fleeing from the US. They are traveling, and that's it. But you don't want any disruption to the global economy right now. So as much as some people may disagree with what's happening in terms of US foreign policy, in terms of our national economic policy, we don't want American economy to be affected, because it will affect us. It will affect our ability to deliver to our people. So we don't want that to happen.
He basically answered it then.
Yeah.
Mr. Minister. Oh, yeah, question. I'll go last. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Just to move off that topic just a bit. I think you're the best person to ask this because you're the minister responsible for culture. I think you outlined a greater focus in the preservation of our heritage. I think globally this is very important, especially for small island developing states. Would you be able to give us some insights into your plans for, let's say, Nobel Laureate Week, La Rose and La Marguerite and stuff like that?
Well, even for the coming period?
Yes.
Well, we actually preparing such now, because come March, end of March, when we present the estimates, you'll get a good sense of some of what we're doing. But I can say to you that one of the big ticket items for me is to position St. Lucia globally. We have to be able to take St. Lucia and position St. Lucia globally. We want as many people all over the world to be able to recognize St. Lucia. Have to. The front of the minds of persons who are thinking about traveling, we want very close in their considerations. St. Lucia is always there, to be very close in their considerations. So we have to think of how we can position St. Lucia where we are at the forefront of the minds of people who are thinking about traveling or even investing. And then now we have to decide how we do it and what it is we present St. Lucia as. And that's why your point about heritage and culture really becomes important, because we have to be able to define the St. Lucia personality and experience that we want the world to come and enjoy. Now, I'll tell you something. When we had set up the CIP in 2015, 2016, we had a particular conception, how we wanted the program to be. One of the things we did, we had hired a relationship manager, because we felt you couldn't become a citizen and not know the country you're a citizen of. And then that person would establish relationships with all the new citizens. In 2016, the government changed and that was removed. Now, the Europeans and the UK have virtually asked us to put it back in, not us, the whole Caribbean. So they call it residency requirement and genuine links. And it's part of the laws, the changes we made to the CIP laws just before elections. So we are now asked to make sure that there are genuine links. So everybody who's become a citizen of St. Lucia must come to St. Lucia for a certain period of time. And we must show that we are establishing links with those new citizens. Now think of the possibilities that have been created now, where all those new citizens have to learn about St. Lucia, have to come to St. Lucia, and we can use them to sell St. Lucia globally. And when we start talking about heritage and culture and how we present St. Lucia, it's an opportunity for us now to really package that definition of St. Lucia and sell it globally. And for us, this is really exciting. We end into a new phase where we have an ideal opportunity to take our creatives, to take, from fashion, music, sculptors, painting, dance, song. We have a golden opportunity now to position St. Lucia globally. But we just need to find the right, tactical moves to make to register that. Julian Alfred is a powerful help for us in that regard, because every time she takes part in a global race, and she wins and whatnot, it helps us. That's the kind of positioning we want, and we have to continue to think, because your sports people are valuable resource in that regard. Your creatives are valuable resource in that regard. So coming in the coming period, you will see us setting up the Creative Economy Unit or agency, where we can now dedicate more resources into achieving that objective that I spoke about. We want people all over the world And they have some things we're working on, and hopefully I'll be able to announce it at the right time. All over the world, people must hear about St. Lucia. Must hear about St. Lucia. And when some of those people decide they're going to travel, you have to remember they heard about St. Lucia, let them look into it, and let them find out exactly. And AI is helping out too. I mean, you can literally go on now and through the AI tools, set up your itinerary for a 1 week immersive experience in St. Lucia. It will actually give you your program and your experience based on what it is that's available in St. Lucia. So, I mean, it's really exciting times for us, and a chance for us to do something the PM always speaks about. Let us make St. Lucia the best place to live and work in the Caribbean. And how do we do it? And how are we going to achieve it? There are a lot of little nuisances around the place we have to deal with. Littering, people no regard for the surroundings, old vehicles, old buildings, the way we relate to people, the way we relate to each other. There are a lot of things we need to tidy up in the country. A lot of things we need to tidy up. The discipline of our people, how we drive on the roads. You know, there's so much we have to do. And that's the project which is before us and this government for the next 5 years. You know, when we talk about moving forward together, it's about that journey, that vision.
Good afternoon, Dr. Hilaire.
Hi.
You assuming the role of Minister of Commerce, have you been briefed on the status of the Cannabis and Industrial Hemp Bill?
I'm getting my briefing on Friday morning.
Okay, my
This entire
questions will
week will
pertain into
be-
that. So,
This entire week I'll be briefed by all the various departments and statutory bodies under commerce.
okay, well,
So come next week I can better respond.
Okay.
But Sheikh, go ahead with the question. This I'll take note of it.
right. You would have heard last week a statement by Mr. DeCaris on the police targeting cannabis growers, despite ongoing talks regarding the bill. I just wanted a response to that.
Well, I mean, put it that way. I saw the clipping, the comments he expressed, and I can understand what he was saying, that they were moving towards establishing a cannabis industry where the cultivation and the sale of cannabis and its products within a managed structure will be legalized. And therefore, he's asking a very serious question. Why would, a few weeks before we create that new framework, that new landscape, why would you be going about just destroying marijuana plantations? And I mean, I agree with him. I think it's a very fair, concern that is expressed, but the law is still the law. And currently it is still illegal to cultivate. But you'd want to believe that his point has a lot of value, that if we are moving into this direction, maybe one should be a little more understanding of the broader context. And yes, the law says it's still illegal to cultivate marijuana, but this is where we're moving, and therefore probably have a slightly different response and to what's happening for the cultivation of marijuana. So I shared a lot of his frustration, understanding the journey that has taken us to where we are. So we are going to accelerate the work that has started, because that's the intention, and let's make it work.
Last week during the police's press conference, I asked the police that same question, and the response I got was that as long as cannabis growing, selling remains illegal, that the police will continue its crackdown. Do you back them on that?
Well, I just expressed my view that, and the police is fully entitled to say so because the law says so. But so is having tinted vehicles on the road. I better not comment on the police. I mean, I agree. I understand the police. It's illegal. And if they want to crack down on it, they're fully entitled by law to crack down on it. But you put it in a broader context, and you act accordingly. So the police is not wrong. The police, they're not wrong. But, you'd want to understand by next month, it would probably be fully legal to cultivate. So why such action? But I can look around and see a lot of things that are illegal in this country and they happen.
Thanks.
Yes, afternoon, Dr. Elia. I'm Dominican, and I've been living in St. Lucia and working in St. Lucia for a year now. And you made mention of putting St. Lucia more on the map. Since I've been here, I've never seen so many celebrities in my life. I feel St. Lucia is doing the right thing in terms of putting St. Lucia on the map and so on. So you say the main strategy is networking, because you say that you're going to do even more. What more exactly will you be doing? Because I feel like, the tourism industry.
Estimates in March.
Okay, because I feel like the tourism industry is doing like a pretty good job compared to other countries, not even Dominica regionally. So I just wanted to know what more can be done, and a lot is already being
Now we're
done.
thinking of something real big.
Yeah.
Real big. Even New Spin will approve it.
Dr. Elia, I want to go back on your proposal
Just
to collaborate with international sports teams to promote St. Lucia. I propose Arsenal. Arsenal is one of the main teams I think you should attach brand St. Lucia to. So I'm just
you should post that.
I'm just throwing that out there. I think a question.
If you ask for that, you probably should get it.
Arsenal will likely win the league, so it makes a lot of sense right now to put St. Lucia, align St. Lucia with winning teams, not Lapo teams, losing teams like United. As a community tourism question came up earlier, let me just throw it out there again. I have a lot of proposals. Community jazz at Anse Ferry. Okay, put that in the back of your mind somewhere. But anyway, so the festival season's coming up this year. We have carnival, jazz, etc. But we still have to juggle between the same limited venues. Most of them are sports venues, and in years gone by, sports ministers, sports groups, sports lobbies have always wanted to find some middle ground with the private sector in terms of the proper usage, management, and due care to these facilities. It's a new administration. It's a new year. Is there going to be, or is there a new approach to finding that middle ground so that the private sector can use these sports venues and without causing too much disruption to the sports community?
I think your question is quite appropriate and you're correct. It's about finding the middle ground. We want event managers. Now I'm involved in the biggest events, as minister. But my background and my historical involvement in sporting development. Persons must be sensitive to the requirement of protecting the sporting facilities and ensuring that they get back into operation as soon as possible. So whatever you do in organizing the events and putting it together and how you put them together, you must be sensitive to the sporting needs. We can't run away from the fact that we have to use them, but use them in a way which protects the integrity of the facility. And when you finish using it, immediately and as quickly as possible, get it back into operation for the young people of the country and the sports people of the country. And I think that's the mindset, that's the sensitivity that we should have. So we're going to use it because we have limited venues, but we have to be sensitive. When you put the stage, when you put the different service providers, how you impact the playing surfaces, all those things you have to be sensitive to. And then when you finish, can you take down the infrastructure as quickly as possible to restore the facility so it can be used for sporting purposes? And I think that's what's important, finding that middle ground. But in addition to middle ground, the sensitivity of users of those facilities for non-sporting purposes to understand that they have a responsibility for doing so. And we've improved, because I remember using the SAB in 2022 compared to how we use it now. We use it more responsibly. We try to get in as quickly as possible, get out as quickly as possible, using Darren Summer Cricket grounds. So, for example, the show that was held there, Colour Me Red, last year, the stage was off the playing surface, that kind of stuff. Or
Ryan Astor?
Well, it was not affected.
For the South.
Yeah.
The SAM is a totally different animal.
Yeah. But the point is, you just have to be more sensitive and to be more understanding of the demands.
Last for me, as far as venues are concerned, it's a new administration. Are we going to see the Jazz and Arts Festival at a different venue, Main Stage Jazz, outside of Pigeon Island? Or is there any intention to find a new home, I don't know, to host the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival?
No.
That's the long-term home, most likely?
I mean, it is the spiritual home of the Jazz and Arts Festival. That's just a reality. Our version in Miko is going to grow this year. It's a special venue, and we're going to use it. But the spiritual home of Jazz and Festival is Pigeon Point.
That means the relationship between the organizers and the National Trust is more symbiotic now. It's more harmonized now.
I'm not party to the everyday discussions, so I have no reason to believe otherwise. I'm sure it's in the capable hands of the two entities.
All right, cool.
That's it. That's it.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for tolerating us at Infrastructure in the last couple of weeks as we refer to the Office of the Prime Minister. I'd also like to extend on behalf of the OPM our sincere thanks to the administrative staff as well as the general staff of Infrastructure for accommodating Cabinet as well as the press briefings in that area in the last couple of weeks. Before we go on to anything else, I'd like to introduce you to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre. He first has a statement, and then you can ask your questions afterwards. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Kui. Good morning, members of the press. Trust you had a good weekend. I just want to make a short statement on road safety and driver responsibility. I speak to you today with a heavy heart following reports of a fatal road accident last night in Beaufort. While the full circumstances are still being confirmed, my thoughts and condolences are with the family, friends, and community grieving this sudden and painful loss. Tragically, this incident is yet another reminder of the devastating consequences of unsafe behavior on our roads. Over the past several years, St. Lucia has experienced a deeply concerning pattern of frequent road accidents and avoidable fatalities. Hundreds of collisions have been recorded, many resulting in serious injuries and loss of life. Behind every statistic, behind every accident, there is a grieving family, a shattered future, and a community left asking why. While young drivers are particularly vulnerable, often due to inexperience and poor judgment, this issue affects all road users. No age group, profession, or community is exempt. Speeding, distracted driving, reckless overtaking, driving under the influence, and a general disregard for traffic laws continue to place lives at risk every single day. Let me make it absolutely clear. Most road deaths are preventable. Most road deaths are preventable. No appointment, no destination, and no moment of impatience is worth a human life. We must stop as a country making excuses for recklessness. We must stop making excuses for recklessness and behavior that can be avoided. The governor of St. Lucia has been actively engaged in addressing this crisis for our national road safety campaign, strengthened traffic enforcement, and targeted improvements to our road infrastructure. These efforts are important and necessary. However, no campaign, no law, and no police presence can succeed without a fundamental change in personal behavior. Road safety begins with individual responsibility. Our drivers, some of them, drive too fast. Our drivers drive too fast. and sometimes too reckless. I therefore call on every St. Lucian driver, motorcyclist, pedestrian, cyclist, and passengers to obey the traffic laws, respect speed limits, avoid alcohol and distractions when driving, ensure vehicles are roadworthy, and exercise patience and courtesy on our roads. These are not optional choices, they are obligations we owe to each other. This is not merely a traffic issue, it's a public health issue. Some time ago, last year, I made the point of what it costs a road accident, what it costs in terms of our health care, what it costs in terms of the opportunity costs that we lose because we have to expend so many resources to treat people who have accidents, avoidable accidents, and we make excuses and blame everyone except ourselves. This is not merely a traffic issue. It's a public health concern, a national development issue, and a moral responsibility. Every life lost on our roads is one too many. Every serious injury places an unnecessary burden on families, communities, and our healthcare system. Let us stop making excuses. Let us commit collectively and decisively to changing our behavior, protecting our young people, and ensuring that our roads serve their purpose, to connect us safely, not to divide us through tragedy. Let us stop making excuses. Let us stop making excuses for recklessness. There's no excuse for driving under the influence of alcohol. No excuse. There's no excuse for driving at 60, 70 miles an hour on roads that were built to 30 miles per hour. No, absolutely no excuse. The police will be instructed to take measures to help reduce legal methods, to help reduce that carnage and recklessness on the roads of our country. These are lives. These are lives. These are people, children, kids who get injured, their futures. And not in the future now, not in the future of them, but the future of their relatives. Anytime we are behind a steering wheel, we have lives in our hands. People who drive people from work, home, etc., they have lives. Sometimes they have 14 lives in their hands. That's a serious responsibility. A vehicle can be a weapon. We cannot take it lightly. And let us stop making excuses. There's no reason, no lighting on roads, although that's very necessary, no marking of roads can cause somebody to drive at 60 miles per hour on a road that is meant for 30 miles per hour. We can find excuses for everything. We can blame governments for everything. But what about ourselves? What about our personal responsibility? And when we get in a vehicle, we understand that we have our lives and people's lives. It's a very serious situation. And this morning I'm saddened because too many young men lost his life. Last week, children got injured. And when they come to the healthcare system, it removes resources that we can use to deal with healthcare, and we have to spend it on when it could be avoided. And let us stop making excuses. Thank you, gentlemen. Questions?
Good morning. I think recently members of the public have asked for a reform of tax laws to institute or maybe enforce a demerit system, so reckless drivers would be penalized in terms of their licenses and their ability to drive. What do you say to that?
I say to that, necessary, have to spend resources. But why must there be reckless drivers? Something that we're looking into. We'll be looking into it, and the government will have. These things take resources. They take resources, and you know what? How you get resources? By taxation. These things have resources. We not just start a demerit system. You need the software. These are resources, but it's something we have to look into. But we can avoid that. That can be used for the school feeding program. Think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that is spent by reckless driving, by people getting injured. That can be used to improve the health care that we want to improve so much. But we as a country, we have to take individual responsibility. It's like littering. The resources that we spend in littering, and we want everything, but we complain about taxes. Although St. Lucia is still one of the lowest tax bases in the region. We complain about taxes. It's like, I don't want to change the topic on you, but rain harvesting, water harvesting. Look at the rain that fell over the weekend. But we have droughts. We have a drought now. Think about it. Somebody showed me something that I want to share with you. It's a pity I don't have the picture to show you. Somebody showed me something, and I think I'll probably give Monday and my people the picture to show you. A water tank is piping Wasco's water. Okay? Then a tank. Next to it, less than 2 feet away from it, there is a guttering with a dung pipe chopping water in the ground. I want to show a picture for everyone to see. Less than 2 feet, there's a dung pipe dropping the rain into the ground. And there's a Wasco tank, 2 feet here, not Wasco tank, a tank with Wasco water. you understand? Just a little bit of thinking. I was thinking, think about the rain that fell this weekend. Every household ought to have water. Every household has a gutter, has a roof. Every household has a guttering. Think about it. Think about buying one length of guttering and just gutter one side of your house and put it in a thing. Even though you have no fancy piping, you see you have money, etc. for now. Just think about it. At least you have water in there to flush your toilets. At least. And this year, I'm going to tell you, the budget is going to be about sustainability. The budget is going to be about how we use the resources that we have to make St. Lucia the best place to live and work. That's what the budget is going to be about. Sustainability. How by our own individual actions, how we save money by not littering. If you go into the waterways in this country, everything that's there is somebody threw it. And this is what we're going to be talking about this year, this budget. Sustainability. How do we grow our own food to eat? How do we grow it? We're going to have an emphasis this year. I can give you a preview on hobby farming. I've instructed the Minister of Agriculture to look into the varieties of crops that we can grow even though we live in the CDC. These things are possible. And that's where we're going this year. This year, we're on a sustainability, and I want everybody to help us. Elections are over. We've won, and we've won well. So let us get the country together. I'm calling on everyone, even the opposition, help us. Sustainability. How do we make our country use the resources that we have so that we can make St. Lucia the best place to live and work?
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. Good morning, everybody. Amanda King from DBS Television. You mentioned about the budget will be built on sustainability, and you also mentioned the story about littering. We've heard talks about an environmental tax. Will that be introduced in this new year?
We've not decided any fiscal measures as yet. In fact, what's happening is that I'm glad you reminded me. We have removed taxes on pensions. Now, every pensioner, regardless of both his government pension and his other pension, is tax-free. We've also increased the allowances. In fact, we're going to come to Parliament, if not the end of this month, before the budget, because we've done some sweeping changes in the tax laws to make St. Lucia, to make taxes in St. Lucia less for some people, but ensuring that we pay our equal share. So as far as I know, we've made no decisions on any environmental taxes as yet.
Second question from me. Can you clarify what does the suspension of visas processing by the US means for St. Lucia? And I guess the question everybody wants an answer to, why do you think the US stopped processing non-immigrant visas for St. Lucia?
They actually stopped processing for 74
I'm
other
aware.
countries.
St. Lucia included.
St. Lucia included, yes. It's 75 countries, St. Lucia included.
It's immigrants, not non-immigrants.
Immigrants, sorry.
Immigrant. I thought, that's what I just know. Immigrant visas. I tell something. It's very unfair to ask us leaders in the Caribbean to answer questions of why the United States does what it does. It's a very unfair question. I mean, it's very unfair actually. How can the Prime Minister of St. Lucia determine why the President of the United States took a position? That's almost impossible. I mean, the President of the United States takes his decisions based on his policies, based on his election promises, and based on what he wants to do, what he sees best for the United States. And I respect that. I can't have questioned the President of the United States if he takes decisions as it affects the United States. What I can do is I can ensure that we obey the laws in St. Lucia. I want to say to you that the United States will continue to be our friends. And what I can tell you is that by what we do here, by actions we take here in St. Lucia, by our words, we do not create unnecessary hardship for St. Lucians. I want to say it again. By the things we say here, most of it untrue, we do not create unnecessary hardship for St. Lucians whilst we aim to get political gain. Because as you were right, 75 countries have been affected by the US laws as it relates to immigrants. 75 countries. And it concerns me when I see sometimes there's rejoicing in St. Lucia. There's rejoicing by some people in St. Lucia. Oh, you'll come for St. Lucia, you lose your visas. And people are rejoicing. I never understand what's the thinking of that. If the thinking is to affect the Prime Minister, I say, why is I'm Prime Minister? I think I'll always have a visa. I mean, let me underline, why is I'm Prime Minister? So I don't know why people seem to rejoice. And people always rejoice. There's a kind of excitement in the air. Visa, St. Lucia, visa, as if, I never understand why is that a cause for us to rejoice? Or why do we look for reasons why? That's what I'm saying. Why are we doing that? Why not ourselves? The people who think we're going to be affected for now will not be affected. I will always have a visa, hopefully. The cabinet of the ministers, at least they'll have diplomatic visas. So why are we doing that? In our quest, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen of the press. The elections are over. The elections are over. The Labour Party won the elections. We increased our seats in Parliament. We increased our votes in terms of the national vote count. The people of St. Lucia chose the Labour Party to run this country. Let us accept that. Let us work together to make St. Lucia the best place to live and work. I'm calling on all citizens. Let us get together. There are serious challenges ahead of us. There's serious challenges ahead of us. There's serious geopolitical challenges ahead of us. Some of it we have no control over. What we have control over, let us control it. Let us try our best to minimize the tragedy on our roads so we can put too much pressure on our healthcare system. Let us try. There are things we have control over. Let us use it so that we can have a better life in this country. Things we have no control over, let's not incite it to make it worse for our own petty political reasons. The elections are over. We've won. That's a fact. It's a fact. Let's get together. We need to get together. We need to get together. If not, we'll perish. We need to get together. We need to take some small steps, very small steps. I made a point a while ago about hobby farming, water harvesting, environmental degradation, stopping environmental degradation. The very fact that anytime a road is built, somebody puts a garage right there. These are the things that we can stop. Things we have control over. A lot of things we have control over will cause us not to use the resources that we use, and we can divert these resources to healthcare. We can divert these resources to education. We can divert these resources to social infrastructure. By little things, just little things, to improve our sustainability. And this is what I want to urge all solutions. Let's look at the little things we can do to make St. Lucia a better place to live and work.
Prime Minister, I heard what you said, and with all due respect, you did not answer my question.
What's the question?
I'm asking, what does this mean for St. Lucians, and why do you think? I know that you have no control over the President Trump's decisions.
What it means to St. Lucians, they have to take the line like anybody else when they're applying for immigrant visas. That's what it means to St. Lucians.
We're hearing talks about it might be due to the citizenship by investment
for
programs.
74 other countries?
We're focusing on St. Lucia here locally
because
the citizens want to know.
Jamaica has got a citizenship by investment. Barbados has got a citizenship by investment. St. Vincent has got a citizenship by investment program. 4 other countries, 74 other countries. 74 other countries have the same problem. 74 others, not in St. Lucia. I mean, 74 other countries. I don't know. I cannot tell you what's in the thoughts of the government of the United States. They haven't told me what they said in the statement that we put out. Because of the welfare situation, they thought that too many people will come in the United States as immigrants to deal and be on welfare. That's the only reason I have. That's the only reason I can tell you. It's the only reason that they gave. You know what I mean? If anybody knows better, tell me. That's the reason they gave for the 74 other countries. That because these countries, their citizens use the welfare system or what's that effect too much, so they had to clamp down on the immigrant visas. That's the reason they gave. Any other reason, I don't know. I know you don't like me, so I don't know. That's a fact. I don't know.
Thank you. Who's next?
Mr. Prime Minister. Morning. Still on the same issue. Would we be interested, or would the government be interested in promoting, encouraging the use and the exploration of other markets? So, for example, our travels, our external commercial enterprising, if you want to call it that, our vacation spots. One would imagine that there are literally a world of other markets to explore. Would the government be interested at all in promoting that and encouraging St. Lucians, and I guess the wider region, to explore those markets?
You see, there are certain things that that are factual. The US is 4.5 hours away from us. 3.5 hours. Miami, 3.5 hours away from us. That's a fact. Any other market is further. These are factual things. The government can't tell people where to go on holiday. That's up to people's choices. Our tourism for now is skewed towards the US market and the British market and the Canadian market. We are exploring other markets, but the reality is the US market is the closest market. It's reality. And the reality also is our whole cultural linkages are with the US. Everybody in here has a relative in the US. Everybody here has a relative here. So these are things, these are facts, and nothing we can do about it. You understand? So it is no use that we pretend these are not facts. The US are our closest countries closest to us, and the US foreign policy impacts us more than any other country. These are facts. Now, what we can do, and that's a point, Ryan, that I want the members of the press not to get sidetracked. The point of sustainability, using what we have to depend less on any market. Right? We are self-sufficient in chicken, in eggs. We're self-sufficient. We grow in that. These are things we can control. What we must do as a country, instead of speculating or complaining or lying down and die, we have to be innovative. We have to be resilient. We have to work together with each other. You understand? We have to stop the idea of lying down and die, or the idea of playing the blame game, and let us use our intelligence. Let us use our history. We have a history of resilience. I once heard a politician say in the parliament that when you talk about resilience, we are resilient people, very resilient. We survived slavery not too long ago. I mean, we changed governments in a day. Look what happens in St. Vincent. The government changed, and the country continues. But we beat ourselves on the chest all the time. We beat ourselves instead of we using our natural intelligence to progress. We beat ourselves. For political reason. Beat ourselves. Why is Trump doing that? Because you're all doing this and that. No. Trump is in the best interest of America. What he sees to be the best interest. We have to be in the best interest of St. Lucia. What we see, understanding that we are a small country with limited resources, and the United States are our closest neighbor.
Yeah. The question was really from the perspective that the likes of Canada, and we are not anywhere close to being a Canada, but the likes of Canada and Mexico are actually exploring non-traditional markets and moving in that direction. My question was basically whether we were along the lines of thinking in that direction.
Oh yeah, we are. If you're talking about tourism, that takes marketing, and there are a lot of things. But we are. The question is, yes, we are. But it's easier to work on what we have. But at the same time, Ryan, you must not underestimate what's available to us. Not underestimate that. What's available to us, or what we can do to save ourselves. We cannot just lie down and die. We have to save ourselves. And there are a lot of things we can do to save ourselves. A lot of things we can do. I've given you 3 examples this morning, and I'm sure you have more. We can save ourselves, Yes, we can. We can save ourselves. And then I want you to be optimistic. And let's move forward with confidence. As a strong, vibrant people. Of course, there are difficulties. There are obstacles. Of course, it's difficult. But we are strong, vibrant people. We are the country that produced Derek Walker and Sir Arthur Lewis. We are the country that produced Julian Alfred, Dan Sammy, Rick Wayne. We are a country that produced these people. We are a country that produced George Charles and John Compton. We produce these people. So how in a sudden have all these people disappeared and all, and we find ourselves in a situation where we die, boy, because of this, boy, and they're going to die, and this. Nah, let's move on.
One more for me. I don't know if it has been dealt with, but the issue of our water shortages and the harvesting, if it has been dealt with, my concern though, there is talk, not a concern, but there is talk of the desal option. There are worries about, especially the north of the island, shortages there. And of course, as we mentioned the last time, the advent of the new developments. How are we managing what position we're in and where we're going?
I want to make a promise. At some point of time, I will want to have some members of the press to visit a neighboring island to see what they did as far as water is concerned. And Bermuda. I want to, at some point, we'll ask some of you to come with us, that means how it was good, to go and see what Bermuda did as far as water harvesting is concerned. I am fully sold to the water harvesting issue, fully sold, until somebody tells me wrong and that I'm wrong. I'm fully sold. I'm convinced that a lot of our problems can be solved by harvesting water. I'm convinced, and that's a discussion we're going to have in the public. But talk about the plans. Talk about desalination. In fact, this myself is something on my desk. The government will give incentives, for serious incentives for anybody who wants to look at that. Even more incentives than they get now. We're going to help 100%. We're also going to be looking in this budget into creating incentives for people to harvest their own water. Because this weekend was a typical example. We had a lot of rain this weekend, in a drought situation. That water went to the ground. Yes, Ryan, it went to the ground. It went to the ground. It could have been collected and been used, if you don't want to drink it, being used to wash clothes, being used to flush toilets, being used to clean wash cars. It went to the ground. I want that mindset, and I want to beg you, and members of the press, to try to instill this water harvesting thing in the minds of people of St. Lucia. Please. Because it's not going to solve all our problems, it's going to help solve our problems. Because we get water. You see, we don't have a situation where there's rain doesn't fall for a year. Praise God. We never had a situation. Rain doesn't fall for a whole year. Rain doesn't fall for 2 years, happening in some countries. Rain falls. You have to keep it. It goes to the ground. Sometimes in drains. I mean, this weekend, that actually hurt my heart. Because I was somewhere where they said, well, there's no water. They had to, up north, right? The person had to be buying water. You understand? And the reason I'm saying that, looking outside, and water going in a drain. Water. So let's start the conversation. I'm very excited about it. Let's start the conversation about water harvesting. Let's start the conversation. Let's start it. Let's start let's get our engineers together. Let's get our water resource people together. Let's start the conversation. The conversation, and again, think about it. It'll probably help our debt situation. If we can avoid WASCO having to borrow millions of dollars, help our debt situation. A lot of things, if we think out of the box, because we have enough intelligence in St. Lucia to think out of the box and get things going if you can just cut off the party politics for a while. Just for 2 years. Let's cut it off. You're laughing. Just for 2 years. Let's just cut it for 2 years. Let's just take 2 years and call a stop. And then let's go. I'm not saying 2 years you stop criticizing me, that all my life. But just for 2 years, stop this real crass political mischief. 2 years. You see what I'm saying, Lucia? Let everybody listen to me. Let's all of us take on the water harvesting train. All of us. Let's say about water harvesting. Let's work together and see what things we can do. How we can train our engineers. How we can look at the country, look for examples. How we can look at our own roofs and see how we can put a piece of gutter in there. So let's just take 2 years to do that. You see how that. Think about, I don't want to be saying the same thing all the time. Think about the mortar we could have saved what fell this weekend. You were. I mean, rain fell I was out of the country. I called, they said rain is falling. Rain fell this morning. Rain fell last night. Rain fell. Where did that go? In the ground. In drains. That's where it went. So we working together on the water harvesting? DBS? Particularly DBS. Are we working together on water harvesting? Yeah?
That's a good plan, yeah.
Let's work together on water harvesting. Let's for change work together on this thing. DBS there. Let's work together on water harvesting. Huh? If only that, nothing else. Don't mention the Prime Minister's name at all. Just say water harvesting. leave the Prime Minister's name out. He's not there. Just water harvesting. Let's work on that. Okay? That's it.
Just
yes.
one last thing. Mr. Prime Minister, on this issue of party politics.
On who?
Party politics.
Yeah.
The issue of taxation has been politicized in St. Lucia for a while. But you highlighted, and I think it's contained in many reports from financial observers, that taxation is a key form of revenue for the government. During the rest of your term, do you see the government embarking on something of a tax education reform so that citizens can become aware of taxation, its uses, its benefits, so that at least generally the perception of taxation isn't something that is very politicized in nature?
Taxation will always be politicized. That's something that we will not be able to avoid. But what we need to do is do two things. The government must have the capabilities to collect taxation that is due to them. Collect it. First thing. Secondly, tax must be equitable, in that we must find a situation where everybody pays their fair share. So if there's taxes can be progressive or they can be regressive. As a small country, I think it should be equitable, in that those who can pay more, and those who cannot pay less. That's what I believe. Some people think it should be progressive. Those who can pay more. I think for now, in a development state, where you're asking people to invest, where you're asking people to grow their businesses, I think it's going to be equitable. Right? The government, you must not forget, the government wrote off all taxes that you owed from 2000. Wrote off all the taxes. So even though you owed us, you know how much money the government had out in outstanding taxes? Billion in outstanding taxes. Right now, as you speak, the government probably has in taxes due to the government. Even after we've wiped out all the interest and debt, probably have about $100 million, if not more. Right? So the question is, first of all, we must be able to collect taxes when they're due. And this is why we are improving the IT system at the Inner Revenue, so we can get information to be able to collect taxes that are due to the government. Secondly, people must see that the taxes have been put into good use. And thirdly, we must understand that taxation is a means of raising revenue for the country, and they themselves benefit from it. So when hospitals improve, everybody improves. It's a collective thing, collective collection of revenue, so the entire country can benefit. If you see that taxation, and I said before, it must be equitable. I believe it must be equitable. Some people think it should be progressive. I think smiles like us should be equitable.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. Just one question for me. If we can just go back to the issue of road safety. I know a little earlier you said you'll be requesting more legal matters from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to assist with that issue. Do you think you can give a little description, go a little in detail on what you would like the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to more enforce on our roads?
Well, I mean, the main thing to me is the speed limit. I think people do not obey the speed limits. Face it. Face it. People drive at 70 miles per hour. 70 miles per hour in road in St. Lucia. 76 miles. I mean, one day, I forget, I never recall, I was speaking to a guy. He said, boss, I was just having a cool 70. That's what the man told me. He said, boss, I wasn't going fast enough. That's a cool 70. You know, in the US, the speed limit is 55 miles per hour. The man told me he had a cool 70. Just these simple things. And even though you have an accident and you're not so fast, the damage will not be as extensive. And that also causes insurance premiums to go up. That's a thing I don't think many of us are looking at. We might be able to insure our vehicles because insurance premiums are climbing, because insurance is about risk. It's not about individual, it's a pooling of risk. That's what insurance is all about. And if you continue like that, we're not going to be able to insure our vehicles, insurance premiums. So this accident thing is a far-reaching effect on all of us. You have to spend more for insurances. Forget about healthcare. Healthcare. Look at the resources that we use for accidents. Not only the day of the accident, after broken limbs, broken legs, operations, all that stuff. Gentlemen, that's a plea, I'm making. And it doesn't take anything much, We have a small country. Why must we drive at 80 miles per hour? Why must we overtake in a corner? Why? And don't make excuses. Don't tell me about the road they mark or they have no lights. Don't stop these excuses. And we must stop making these excuses. You must stop it. You must stop it. Of course the roads can be marked better. Of course we can have more lighting. Of course we can have more of all that. Of course we can have more police on the road. But why can't we say we must stop driving at 70 miles per hour? Why is anyone not saying that? We're excusing bad behavior. I mean, I don't want to blame anybody, but if you see the accidents, that had to happen. You may be fatalistic and tell me that's fate. Aaron, that's fate. I guess I don't know myself. I mean, but seriously, that could be avoided. That could be. I mean, I don't want to be, but these things could be avoided. I mean, see all the accidents on the highway. I mean, these guys are crazy. Crazy. I mean, these guys. But why are you making excuses for that? Why isn't anyone saying that's wrong? No one is saying that. No one wants to take responsibility. You all want to blame somebody. Blame the Prime Minister. I drive in the roads. Blame somebody. Take responsibility. Say to people that's wrong. Say to people that you ought not to be driving at 70 miles per hour on a road built for 30. That is wrong. You ought not to go in a rum shop and drink rum and go with a bear in your hand and go in a car and drive. That's wrong. There was an accident by my home there. Bam! Get up, man with a bear in his hand. I saw him, Come on, with a bear in his hand. 1 o'clock in the morning, get a bear in his hand drinking. That's wrong. Don't tell me. So what's his excuse now? The road didn't have markings? Or the road had potholes? That's the excuse? Why are we doing that as a country? Why are we doing that? Yes.
Okay,
That's it.
good afternoon, Mr. PM. Prime Minister Mia Mottley has announced that Barbados, as of today, is preparing for its February 11 general elections. I know that she's one of the regional leaders who supported you in similar times. Do you intend to do the very same?
You mean to attend her inauguration?
Well, all that and to
If
support
I'm-
her, support her
If
also.
only what I know is the Prime Minister about to attend my swearing. And if I'm invited, I'll surely attend hers. If he's elected. Okay. Thank you.